So we've talked about quantitative studies. Let's take a look at a few qualitative studies. Here's a study which looks at the preferred coaching style of Generation Z athletes, a qualitative study. And let's just take a look to see how they collected their data to determine whether it is quantitative or qualitative, other than looking at the title there. So we're still into here. So here's the participants. So we had 5 male, 5 female athletes, and the procedures. Whoop. And so here's the questions, interview protocol, but we can see that all interviews were face-to-face and located in a classroom. So we can see that it was qualitative in the sense that they interviewed the participants, and it goes through the interview protocol, and that is the type of data here that was collected. All right. So now that was interviews. Here's another study which is qualitative, which is focus groups. So focus group is another type of qualitative primary research article type. But a focus group is where you have more than one person in a room and you're getting the opinion of a group. And so data were gathered using focus group interviews, 7 with children, 4 with adults. And so if we went into the methods section further down, we could see how large the focus groups were, how many people were involved in each of those group interviews. And here's another example of a qualitative study. This is a study I conducted, which was qualitative, and I collected 3 different types of qualitative data: coach interviews, athlete interviews, training session observations, and artifact collection. And what are artifacts? Artifacts in qualitative research are items that the participants make. And so in this study, I was looking at the coaching philosophy of D1 cross-country coach, and the artifact, for example, was the team rules, which were created by the coach and given out to the athletes. So through all of those 3 different triangulated qualitative results, we try to answer that research question: to what extent are they humanistic? That's a type of a coaching philosophy. So those are all primary qualitative research studies. Here's a mixed method. So what is mixed method? Mixed method is where you combine quantitative numbers and qualitative words observations. So this study I conducted, you read about a lot of web-based articles which say that you can learn about American football through playing Madden, the video game. So we took 40 international students and we pre-tested them on their American football knowledge. They played 8 sessions of Madden, and then afterward we post-tested them and we tracked their quantitative learning, but then we also conducted focus group, and also through qualitative means tried to determine to what extent did they learn or have any types of impacts from playing the Madden video game. So that was a mixed method study. Quantitative and qualitative. All right, so now another type of primary research. Remember, we're still talking about primary. Thesis. So this is typically a master's student has conducted a study with a thesis committee, so an advisor and other committee members, And here's one that you can typically see on school repositories, and this one is from Krisha Parker here. So it is okay to cite theses, and then let me show you here example of a dissertation. So this would be from excuse me, a doctoral level student. Here's one from Brigham Young. And so you can see that this study is over 300 pages long. These are okay to use as primary research, but you need to highly critique the sample size, what types of generalizations are being made, the validity and the methods of the study, because these are new young researchers. Same with the thesis students. But it is acceptable APA to cite these types of studies. All right. And that would also be primary research. All right, case study. So a case study, here's a case study that I conducted. Case study is looking at a unique instance. So your participant or participants are unique in some sense, but also you're going to have small sample sizes, and a lot of times they can be qualitative in nature. This one was. In medical literature, you might have a case study because of a very rare disease of a particular patient. So they talk about how the how the patient presented and what were the symptoms and how it was treated and what were the results, because it was a unique, some rare type of case. All right. One last, when you look at some of the business literature, here's a sport management related, what you call case law report. And this could be also considered primary research. It is a report of a specific case that was performed, United States District Court, Northern District of California, and then you can see the plaintiff and the defendant and what was the result of that particular case. And so a lot of business and sport management types of scholars will use that as type of primary research. All right, so now we've talked about primary. Let's get into secondary. So, common mistake, an abstract. We showed this before, but this is all that was available. I did it, you do a search, you find an abstract. An abstract can be qualitative or quantitative study. However, it is not good enough to just read the abstract and cite it in a paper. You need to find the whole paper. So if you can only find the abstract, don't cite it. Find the whole review so you can critique it yourself. All right, meta-analysis. So you can see here a meta-analysis, a systematic review of several primary research articles. A lot of times they will say meta-analysis in the title, or might be a systematic review. But meta-analysis is going to typically involve running statistics on several different studies that have already been conducted based upon collecting the data from those studies. And so their methods section will discuss how they found those other primary research articles and how they ran the meta-analysis. So this is secondary research. All right. Another example, meta-analysis here. and let's get into a report. Now, a report could be a report of primary research if they conducted the study themselves and they collected the data themselves. But this, for example, is a secondary source in the sense that this report, Shape of the Nation report, it is just a report of research that has been conducted by other people, and it is synthesized, and they are trying to give recommendations based upon research that other people have conducted. So this is secondary source. Literature review. Literature review is secondary. So they are looking at many different primary research articles and then coming to a conclusion based upon what the literature is out there. It is a secondary source. They may have a method section, but the method section is only going to be talking about the ways in which they collected all of the studies which relate to their topic. So it's a literature review, secondary source, review of literature, another way to say it. Here's another example of a literature review. Physical education and sport in schools, a review of benefits and outcomes. So this is not primary research. This is information, studies that they have found themselves, and they're reporting on multiple different primary research articles. So here is a theoretical paper. So this could be a secondary source. Here's a paper I wrote, Virtually Athletes, where esports fit within the definition of sport. So you can see the little play on words for virtual and virtually. And so for this paper, what we did is we discussed what is esports, competitive video gaming, but then sort of the core of this paper is here are the components of what a sport is. It must include play, be organized, competitive, comprised of skill. The skill needs to be physical, needs to have a broad following, and needs to be institutionalized. Those components were all collected from two main definitions of sport, one from sport sociology, and the other one was from sport philosophy, and went through and discussed to what extent esports fits within the definition of sport for those 6 characteristics. That is a theoretical paper. We had no participants. We were theoretically analyzing a particular topic. This is an example of another secondary source, which you might call a practitioner's article. It's written for more the layman who is going to use this information to implement in their career field. So this is a running start, a paper I wrote with a few people, looking at what is out there for youth running programs and what are these programs, and what where can I get resources to help improve my running program if you are a PE teacher, a coach, a school administrator, a YMCA worker, a Boy Scout leader looking to improve their run time, or a mom or dad just trying to get faster. So these are all examples of secondary sources, and we will have a summary coming up in the last video.